back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Monday edition of Chasing That Paper, presented by VegasInsider.com. What a shirt, eh? Lovely shirt here. You know, I was hoping to be wearing some type of Dolphins gear today, but after that performance last night, I'd be much better off just showing up completely naked. I'm sure producer Tito would enjoy that very much. So we're going to have to talk about that Dolphins later on in the show. Burned quite badly by that, and my sleep is starting to be seriously compromised by just the emotions. Being a sports bettor, being a sports fan, you know, Thursday night with the Raiders. Had a really bad beat in the UFC on Saturday night. Then that no-show by the Dolphins last night. So we'll weigh in on that in a little bit. Let's bring in my co-host for the day, senior editor over at VegasInsider, the king of swing, the man of the minute, Ian McMillan. Ian, how'd you sleep last night?
Very little, Joe. If people don't follow me on Twitter and didn't see it, I was in the final 8 in a $25,000 survivor pool, and I took your Dolphins, Joe. So last night's loss hurt us both, unfortunately. So I could have won $25,000. I walked away with $450, which is still not bad, but it's not quite $25,000. So didn't sleep much last night.
$450? That's not bad. You know how much stuff you can buy at a dollar store? For $450, you're doing all right, buddy. Christmas presents for 450 people. Right there. Okay. We'll recap everything what we saw in the NFL yesterday, including the Dolphins, and take a look at the updated Super Bowl futures odds board in the second half of the program. But we are a picks first show, so let's get right into that action. We're going to start things off with this Monday Night Football game going down in Arizona. The New England Patriots in town. My best bet for this game, give me the Patriots team total over 22.5 points, coming in at -106. So you get a little bit of a different version of this Patriots team week in and week out, but they can exploit bad pass defenses. We just saw it a couple weeks ago versus the Vikings, where Mac Jones had his best game of the season. He lit them up for 382 yards and 26 points. Would have been more had they not gone 0-3 in the red zone. Look at this Cardinals defense. 5 of their last 6 opponents have topped this number, with 4 of them getting into the 30s. The only one out of those 6 that didn't top this number was the John Wolford-led Rams. Something about this Arizona defense on their home field, they're getting absolutely destroyed at home. We saw the Chiefs drop 44 on them. 34 from the Saints, 31 from the Seahawks, and look at these stats. 31st in yards allowed per play at home, 31st in third down defense at home, 31st in the red zone at home, and 31st in yards allowed per pass attempt at home. For all these reasons, I like the Patriots to go over their team total of 22.5 points. Ian, what are you looking at for this game?
Yeah, I'm going to back the Patriots as well, Joe, but I'm just going to take them on the spread here, -1.5 against the Cardinals. I was surprised when I first saw this line last week. I thought it was set at a wrong price. I'd set the Patriots at like 3.5-point favorites here in this spot. Because even if you just look at net yards per play, which I always try to say is not the be-all, end-all for stats, but it's a good place to start. The Patriots 9th in the NFL in net yards per play. They're taking on the Cardinals. We're all the way down at 27th. And as you mentioned, Joe, this Patriots offense does thrive against bad defenses. Now, I wouldn't back the Patriots when they're taking on a good defense. We've seen what happens against the Bills, and even in the 2 wins against the Jets, they didn't look great. But they can beat up on some bad defenses. 26 points against the Vikings, 38 against the Browns, 26 against the Ravens earlier this season. Now they take on a Cardinals defense that's 23rd in opponent yards per play, and really where the Cardinals struggle is on third down and in the red zone. 28th in third down defense, and they are dead last in the National Football League and red zone defense, allowing teams to score a touchdown on 68.89% of their red zone trips. So I will take the Patriots to win and cover the small spread tonight.
All right, on to another sport, the sport of basketball. Going to be hopping back and forth between the NBA and college hoops. I'm going to get us started down deep in the heart of Texas. The Oklahoma City Thunder are in town, and I'm going to take a shot on those Thunder as a +8.5 point underdog. Maybe you haven't heard about it, but the Mavericks have not been a good bet this season, they're currently on a slide that's seen them go 5-14-1 against the spread. And they've been especially bad as a favorite of 6 or more. 1-10-1 against the spread as a favorite of 6 or more. This season, OKC, great bet as an underdog. They're on an 8-3 against the spread run as a dog. Woof, 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 woof. Now we dig into some stats. Dallas's defense has been absolute dog shit. Last 10 games, they are 28th in opponent EFG percentage and 26th in points allowed per 100 possessions. OKC, nothing special, but right in the middle of the pack defensively. Also 10th versus 30th in rebounds per game for the Thunder. And some takeaways from recent matchups. OKC's been beating them. They beat them 2 of the last 3 times they played, including a 6-point win earlier this season. They beat them by 6 in their final matchup last season, and they lost by 2. In another game, Luka played in all 3 of those games, by the way. I like the Thunder. Plus 8.5. Ian, what are you looking at in college basketball?
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at one of the more intriguing matchups tonight, a Pac-12 against Big East showdown here, Arizona State and Creighton, and I will take the Sun Devils plus 3.5 in this spot. The Creighton Blue Jays are a 3-point shooting team. You should all know this by now if you've been watching any college basketball. 58th in 3-point shot rate, with 43% of their shots coming from 3-point range. And now they take on one of the better perimeter defenses. Arizona State is 8th in opponent 3-point field goal percentage, holding teams to shooting just 25.8% from beyond the arc. So they should be able to shut down this Creighton perimeter offense. Arizona State also, by the way, just overall a very good defensive team, one of the better in the country through the first month of the season. 8th in defensive efficiency, 11th in opponent floor percentage. So that's going to be a tough challenge for Creighton, especially considering their shooting has gone cold recently. Their season-long effective field goal percentage is 54% this season. But over their last 3 games, that number is 42.9%. I'm no mathematician, but that means that's dropped over 11% in their last 3 games. So cold shooting going up against one of the better defensive teams in the country. I will take the Sun Devils getting the points plus 3.5.
I'm no mathematician, says Ian. Great line by him. Should use that every show. Okay, maybe the game of the night in the NBA here. We got the Celtics in Los Angeles taking on the Clippers. I like the Celtics to cover the spread. Minus 3.5 points. So rough results for the Clippers versus top competition so far this season. Congrats on beating up the Wizards, Hornets, Spurs, and Rockets. But the losses versus good teams really piling up. Miami got them the other night. The Kings have a 27-point win against them. Utah beat them by 13. Denver by 10. The Warriors by 17. Brooklyn by 15. New Orleans by 21. Phoenix by 17. You get the point. No continuity with this lineup from game to game. Who knows who's going to be in the game with each passing game with the Clippers. Offensively, not even close here. EFG shooting percentage last 10 games. First versus 26. First versus 21st in points per 100 possessions for, of course, the Boston Celtics. And the Clips starting to slip on defense here. This is supposed to be their strength. Their bread and butter, Ian. Yet they find themselves in the middle of the pack in many key defensive categories over the last 10 games. Tough spot for them versus the best offense in the NBA. Give me the Boston Celtics. Minus 3.5. Okay, Ian, your final pick for the show today. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm looking at another college basketball game here. Spread a little bit bigger than the last one. Kennesaw State against San Diego State. I'll take Kennesaw State plus 17.5, and I will tell the folks at home, this line jumped. It's all the way up to plus 18.5, so you can get an even better number than what I got of that. But I'll take the Owls here in this spot. I think San Diego State is an extremely overrated team. They are currently ranked in the AP poll. I don't know how much longer that will last. But they have an average scoring margin of just plus 3.7. That's it. And now they're 17.5-point favorites. They're riding on some early season success, mainly an upset over Ohio State. But they have hardly beaten some not-so-great teams. I mean, I love my UC Irvine Anteaters, but Arizona State needed a last-second 3 to get by them. I don't think they deserve being 17.5-point favorites against Kennesaw State, especially considering the Owls have had better shooting numbers this season. 127th in effective field goal percentage compared to San Diego State, down at 190th. And also the Owls are 31st in the country in defensive rebounding, which is huge. If a team needs to cover this big of a spread, usually they need some second chance scoring opportunities, and Kennesaw State's very good at limiting those. So I think this spread is insane. I like Kennesaw State quite a bit. A plus 17.5. I like it even better at the current number of 18.5. Let's go Owls!
Ian in a very dark room today, I noticed. His lights must not be working. Okay, let's wrap things up on the ice. Very sexy looking game in Pittsburgh with the Dallas Stars in town. Great combination, great pairing for a high scoring game. Give me over 6.5 goals in this one. So check out this Stars offense, absolutely flying high right now. Last 10 games of the season, they rank first in expected goals for. Pittsburgh not too far behind, coming in at a respectable 9th. It takes 2 to tango for an over, and we get the perfect pairing here. High danger chances for over the last 10 games, first and second. And the Penguins, they're allowing way too much action on their own net. Last 10 games, third most shots on net allowed. Not a good recipe versus Dallas, who's third in shots for in this span. And these goalies, especially Tristan Jarry, are going to be very, very busy tonight. Give me over 6.5 in beautiful Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Indeed. Yeah. All right, that's a pick section of the show. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube right now, do me a favor. That like button right down there. There's a subscribe button right down there too. And I ask you to subscribe for your own benefit as well. It makes us easier to find when you log into YouTube or the YouTube app each day. There's Ian doing as if he were to be subscribing. That's how he would do it. So good for Ian. So 7 total picks. By the way, we are coming off a winning show on Friday. Ian did the heavy lifting, going 4-1. So yeah, we tend to win more often than not in those Football Friday shows. We should actually add them up. I tracked my own record over at the Action Network. I don't want to look at my results from the past couple days, but yeah, coming off a winning show Friday. So hopefully we can bring that into today. I've had some rough nights here, betting wise. The Raiders on Thursday. I take the Lakers +5 on Friday night. They're down like 8 points with 29 seconds left. They come back to tie it, to go into overtime. Like, it's in the final seconds and they're shooting free throws. I'm like, just lose the game. Do not go into overtime. Because any season better knows overtime is where underdogs go to die. And what happens in overtime? They score 2 points. And they do not cover the 5-point spread. So that ruined my sleep Friday. The UFC, I picked Jared Gordon to beat Paddy Pimblett. One of the worst decisions in the history of the sport. That ruined my sleep. And then the Dolphins. We're going to get into the Dolphins. But I got to tell you about our friends at BetMGM. First, kick off your day with the king of sports betting. The king of sports books. Sign up with BetMGM using bonus code VIBONUS, and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. That's a VI bonus, all one word, no spaces. And your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. You must be 21 or older. BetMGM, the king of sports books. Indeed, indeed, indeed. All right, let's rip through the results of yesterday quickly from a betting perspective. We'll weigh in on a few of these games. Then we're going to discuss some Miami Dolphins and to take a look at the Super Bowl futures odds board and answer some hot questions here. So we saw what happened on Thursday. No need to rehash that. Ravens, Steelers, easy under in that one. Hey, the Ravens defense looking pretty good lately. They won that one 16-14, covered as a 2-point underdog. The Bengals easily beat the Browns 23-10. Probably not as close as that score indicated. What's going on with Deshaun Watson? He seems a little tense out there. A lot of people giving Watson a pass too. Oh, he's rusty. He played the Houston Texans last week. Give me a break. Speaking of those Houston Texans, hey, good performance by them. They almost beat the Dallas Cowboys. That one went right down to the wire. Dallas won 27-23. They were a 17-point favorite. Dak Prescott looked awful. One really bad interception. And that one, suddenly the Tennessee Titans, this might bring a smile to Ian's face. They look like absolute dog shit. They've lost 3 straight games. The worst of them was this game yesterday versus the Jaguars, who beat the shit out of them, really, 36-22. Nice bounce back by the Jags there. The Minnesota Vikings not doing a lot to defend themselves with who've been given the label as frauds. That was on full display yesterday versus the Lions. Great game by the Lions, man. 34-23. How can you not like the Detroit Lions? Absolutely love them. The over hits in that one in the fourth quarter. The Jets, they kept things relatively tight. They covered the spread against the Buffalo Bills, 20-12 in that one. No points scored in the first half, though, really hurt the Jets in that game. These Philadelphia Eagles are absolutely rolling. Just an ass-kicking. 48-22 over the Giants. Giants, funny, like, you couldn't even really label them as a fraud because, you know, they had that good record, but people knew that they weren't any good anyways. So, you know, they've been really exposed here. Not good looking for the Giants. Kansas City Chiefs, they can't cover a spread versus the Broncos, who scored 34 points versus that Broncos defense. The Chiefs play down to the competition. They take their foot off the gas. We absolutely saw that in this game. You know, have they not learned from the second half of the AFC Championship game last season? I don't know. That's something that could really come back to burn them. But they won the game. The Carolina Panthers looking pretty good now. 3 wins in their last 4 games. How about Sam Darnold? A win over the Seahawks, 30-24. Seahawks out of their bye have looked like shit, especially defensively. Hey, how about Tampa Tom's return to the Bay Area? What a storyline that was. 35-7.
How about the NFC South as a whole? What a division.
And it's going to be funny if Tampa
Falcons
Bay wins
still might win it. We're alive.
If Tampa Bay wins that division, you know Tom Brady's getting some crazy break. They're going to get to host the game, and the opposing team's going to come in, and the quarterback's going to be injured, and he's going to get some insane – he's going to get ridiculous breaks. Yeah, Tampa Bay's going to the Super Bowl. Face it. We've been here before. That's not my prediction, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. And Ian, then this brings us to the Sunday Night Football game, which I was really looking forward to. But it was pain throughout. It was completely awful. The Chargers won 23-17, not as close as the final score indicated. And what I'm calling this game for the Miami Dolphins, it was a perfect storm of patheticness. First of all, from a game situation, this was 100% a must-win game for the Dolphins. You know, they're coming off that bad loss to the 49ers. You give them a little bit of a mulligan for that, though, because they came into that game on fire. The 49ers, a better team, maybe the best defense in the NFL. Shit happens, right? You can't win every single week. But the big thing is, they have the Buffalo Bills on deck Saturday night in a game it looks like they're going to lose in the snow, in the cold in Buffalo. So they come into this game against the Chargers, who aren't really good, if we're being fair. 3 defensive starters out for them. The offensive line all beat to shit. It was a must-win game. It would have taken a lot of the pressure off for the rest of the regular season. But the offense started slow, and they made no adjustments whatsoever. Chargers, good defensive game plan, right? They took away the middle of the field, but the Dolphins did nothing to adjust. Tua keeps going up. Let's get him to throw in those tight windows over the field. They got to switch it up, you know. You got to take some pressure off Tua. Yes, he is to blame for a lot of this, but switch it up. Go to a dink and dunk offense. Run the football more against probably the worst rush defense in the NFL. So the adjustments weren't there. It was absolutely pathetic from the players in a game planning situation. Then, of course, the big storyline of the game. What was it? It was Herbert versus Tua. You know, Tua's kind of been trending in the right direction for most of the season. Herbert, you know, hearing some whispers, not so much. But from a Dolphins perspective, this couldn't have possibly gone any worse from a Tua versus Justin Herbert perspective. Tua played his worst game of the season Justin Herbert played great. Maybe his best game of the season. So here's what I'm going to say to some of my fellow Dolphins fans. Shut up. The debate is over. It wasn't much of a debate to start with, but the who's better, Herbert versus Tua stuff, it's no longer a debate. And Dolphins fans getting absolutely carried away. I'm seeing t-shirts of "We drafted the right guy." Imagine walking around in one of them this morning. And it's funny, I know damn well, had Tua been lights out last night, and if Herbert had a bad game, Dolphins fans, we'd be acting like we won the Super Bowl, right? So you can't really sweep this under the rug. It was brutal, and we're seeing a pattern of Tua in these big games in prime time, where he's not really showing up. And here's what I'll say. So yeah, it's been 2 really bad games for Tua, but if he can recapture the magic a little bit, just tread lightly. Everything doesn't have to be such an extreme high. Tua's the MVP. He's better than this guy. He's better than that guy. It's either an extreme high or an extreme low. Tua sucks. Bring Fitz in. Tua's not a starter in the NFL. Tua's a good quarterback who has the potential to be great. He's not going to be great. He's not going to be good every week, but we need an improvement from that. And I know Dolphins fans, we get carried away because Tua was treated unfairly his first 2 seasons in the NFL, but we're going to take a lot of shit this week. We're going to eat a lot of shit this week, so if we can recapture the magic. Pump the brakes. Chill out. Just relax a little bit. And the swings of being a Miami Dolphins fan, my God, they're taking their tolls. The extreme highs. You go back to the start of the season, that comeback win over the Ravens, the win versus the Buffalo Bills that nobody expected. You go from that to the concussion stuff with Tua, a 3-game losing streak. Then we come back and the offense, hey, this is the best offense in the NFL. Tua is in the MVP discussion. People saying Tua is better than this guy. Tua is better than that guy. Then to this, 2 of the worst performances of the season in back-to-back games. And it's going to get worse before it gets better because we're going into Buffalo. They're calling for snow. They're calling for cold. Short turnaround. Dolphins did get screwed by the schedule makers. But, yeah, this is life as a Miami Dolphins fan. It is not fun. And, you know, when the Dolphins sucked, it was interesting because there was no pressure from week to week. You know, sometimes I wouldn't even watch all of their games because, you know, you expect them to lose. I do expect them to lose here on Saturday night. But life as a Dolphins fan is not easy. Life as a Dolphins bettor is even harder for some of us. You know, I had a 1-unit bet on Miami to cover that spread last night, but Ian had a lot more on the line for the Dolphins. So Ian, tell us a little bit more about your situation with your survivor there in the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I do got some comments in response to that little rant about the Dolphins, Joe. But yeah, I was deciding between the Dolphins and the Bills last week. Obviously, the Bills seemed like the more obvious choice, but I was trying to save the Bills for Week 16 against the Bears. I thought that would have been a nice week to sit back and relax and hope that the rest of the survivor pool lost. So we got a little too cute. We took the Dolphins, and we saw what happened last night. So we are down to the final 8. $25,000 to the winner, and then I lost. So now there's only 7 people left. So last night was tough, losing out on that much money. But just about your rant about the Dolphins there, Joe, and I was talking to you and Tito before we went live. Can you guys relax, please? I told you guys to relax when you guys were getting super hyped about the Dolphins, and now they lose a couple games, a couple bad games, and now it sounded like, Joe, that you prefer for them to be shitty so you can just relax and not stress out about them every week. What kind of insanity are you talking about here, man? You guys got a very young quarterback, 3rd year? You have a first-year head coach. You're going to have highs and lows, man. It's fine. You lost to 2 pretty good teams. The 49ers are a contender. The Chargers are a playoff team. Yeah, they didn't look good last night. Yeah, they made me lose $25,000. But let's relax, man. There's going to be highs and lows. You're going to make the playoffs. That's an improvement from last season. Tua's going to start getting better. Mike McDaniel's probably going to learn from his mistakes. Let's relax. Last night was bad, but the world's not ending, man. The Dolphins are going to be fine.
Look at this, Ian being the voice of reason when it comes to talking the Miami Dolphins. Ian, it's just because I've been here so many times before. Like, living through the Ryan Tannehill Miami Dolphins era was just pure hell. they bring in Adam Gase and the Joe Philbins of the world to coach the team. They had, the whole Nick Saban and Dante Culpeppers. I've been here too many times. I'm sick of it. I just like a little bit of consistency. And hey, it's okay to lose a game. Like, had they just lost that game and, they were competitive and Tua, maybe he throws for 250 yards. But it was just flat out pathetic. These standalone games and
it's a couple of bad games, Joe, but you got one of the better young quarterbacks in the NFL. What a nice, young, smart head coach it looks like. You're going to be fine. It's a lot better than the Ryan Tannehill era. It's a lot better than the Dante Culpepper, Nick Saban. Like, you're acting like the franchise is like you have to start rebuilding again. It's 2 bad games in a row, man. 2 bad games for a playoff team. It's fine.
You don't understand how much Dolphins fans built that game up last night. And I know it's a mental thing, but it got built up so much because this was like the whole, like, Tua's been vindicated all season, right? Some of the best stats in the NFL. And I still think he's a good idiot this morning. Does this finally prove that Tua, doesn't? Shut up. It's 2 games from that perspective, 2 bad games, but the bigger sample size this season shows that he's been really good. But we built this game up last night so much. It was almost our version of a Super Bowl. Like, this was it. Had they won the game and Tua played better than Herbert, the victory lapping would not end this week until we get to Buffalo for Dolphins fans. It got built up so much, and I did too. I didn't say a whole lot about going into. I predicted the Dolphins win and cover the spread. I wasn't going into this saying, the Dolphins are going to absolutely manhandle them and beat the shit out of them. But it got built up so much, and I got to stay off Twitter. The extreme highs and extreme lows of being a Miami Dolphins fan. These guys on TV and Emmanuel Acho, and it's not easy, Ian. And you do the same thing with your Falcons, from week to week when they have their.
I'd much rather be 8-5 than the shit show that the Falcons are right now, but that's okay. We're rebuilding. I'm fine.
Yeah, and you know what? Big picture. If you said to me going into Week 15, the Dolphins would be 8-5 with 2 games at home and 2 on the road remaining, would you take that? I would have said yes. I think their over/under win total is 8.5 to enter the season. They got to split these final 4 games though, and show a little bit of guts in Buffalo. I don't expect them to win that game, but come out and show us a little bit of something. If they get manhandled again for a 3rd straight game, it's not going to be fun coming on this show. But that is the way she goes when you are a fan of the National Football League. Okay, let's take a look at the updated Super Bowl futures odds board with yesterday's results. Now, in the can, we have the Buffalo Bills remaining as the favorite. I guess you could say they squeaked that one out versus the Jets yesterday. Super impressive stuff by the Eagles, plus 450. The Chiefs right there with them, plus 450 as well. Hey, San Francisco 49ers, they didn't take a step back with Brock Purdy. We'll weigh in on that. The Dallas Cowboys, that would have gone down as one of the worst losses in their franchise's history, probably. Regular season-wise, at least, had they lost that one to the Texans. Bengals continue to be red hot. No one wants to play them in the playoffs. Then we get into the likes of the Vikings, Dolphins, Bucs, Chargers, Titans, Seahawks, Commanders, and the Lions. Everybody likes the Lions. So a couple points I want to make here, Ian. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles should be favored to win Super Bowl 57 for the simple reason that they're going to have a much easier path than the top AFC teams, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Cincinnati. The NFC will go through Philadelphia, the second best team in that conference. They're playing with Brock Purdy. And the Eagles, maybe they had a bit of a dip. They lost to the Commanders. They had need a last-second win to beat the Jeff Saturday Colts, but they're absolutely peaking right now. So what do you think, in my opinion here, that the Eagles should be favored to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I don't know. The Eagles, I know they've looked dominant the past few weeks, but they still have some holes. But I guess every team has some holes. But yeah, I don't know. I think so. Maybe they have an easier path. I don't know. I still like the Bills. I think the Bills are still a little bit more of a complete team than the Eagles.
Yeah, it's always different when you get to the playoffs too, right? Like we've seen the Baltimore Ravens just steamroll through a regular season.
Right.
Same as the Green Bay Packers. Let's be fair. Green Bay Packers, best regular season team over the past couple seasons. Then they show up in the playoffs and they score 10 points on their home field. So yeah, things change, and it's guessing. You can guess that, hey, I think Lamar Jackson's going to have an awful game because it is the playoffs. I think Aaron Rodgers isn't going to show up because it is a playoff game. You know, you can't really quantify things in the playoffs sometime. And one of the interesting things in the playoffs is going to be the San Francisco 49ers, still near the top of the odds board there. I guess you could say they're at the top of the second tier. So how are you feeling about them after that ass kicking they gave Tampa Bay yesterday? And Brock Purdy, 16 for 21, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, very Jimmy G-like. But the negative, Deebo Samuel, looks like he's going to be out for at least the rest of the regular season with what appears to be a high ankle sprain. So how do you judge the 49ers here with the season winding down? Do you think they can win a couple playoff games with Purdy?
Well, the 49ers defense can kind of carry them most of the way. Purdy needs to just not lose games, and I think they'll largely probably be all right. So, but also a lot of praise for Purdy, rightfully so. He has looked really good in the 2.5 games the 1.5 games that he's played in. But let's pump the brakes a little bit here as well. This happens all the time when like backup quarterbacks come in or rookie quarterbacks come in. We're kind of seeing a little bit with Mike White, a couple good games. I fell a victim to that too. People will start to say that they're good, and then they kind of fall apart a little bit because a big part of teams' game plans revolve around the quarterback skill sets, what they do well and what they don't do well, trying to force quarterbacks into situations where they have to do things that they're not really good at doing. And usually once more film is released, once a rookie plays more games, or just a new quarterback plays more games, teams get film on them and then figure out how to game plan against them. So we might see that with Brock Purdy. We might see some regression in the coming weeks. But like I said, I think the 49ers defense is good enough. The run game's good enough that as long as he doesn't lose games for them, I think they'll be all right, especially with a generally weak NFC. So yeah, I think they could win a playoff game or two. But I'm not 100% sold on Purdy like some people are yet. I got to see a little bit more.
Okay, so taking a look at this odds board to win the Super Bowl, you can easily break it into tiers. The first tier is easily the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Eagles. Second tier is probably the 49ers, Cowboys, and Bengals. Then you have everybody else. I think it's hard to make a case for a lot of these teams, but in the everybody else category, you know, we see it often where some team comes out of nowheres and makes some noise in the playoffs, maybe even gets to the Super Bowl, maybe even wins the Super Bowl. We've seen it with wild card teams all the time. Cincinnati Bengals had a pretty good unexpected run last season. But in that everybody else tier, who is a team that you would look at and like realistically place some money on? A bit of a flyer, a team that you realistically think can make a little bit of noise and go on a run here?
There's not many because I think they are truly separate. I think it's going to be one of the top 4, top 5 teams. But if I had to pick a team a little bit further down the odds list, I'd probably go Seattle, who I think right now are 70-1, I think, to win the Super Bowl. Because statistically, they are still a pretty good team heading into this coming week. 4th in yards per play. Their defense needs to pick it up a little bit. Their defense is 18th in opponent yards per play. And they do a lot of things really well. Yesterday's loss to the Panthers was a tough one, but I think that was a little bit of a tough stylistic matchup for them. But if you're talking about a long shot, I mean, I think the Seahawks can still do it, especially what was the price? 70-1. That would probably be the pick, but it's not one that I'm backing with a lot of confidence because I think it is like the top 4 or 5 teams and a pretty large gap between everyone else.
So prisoner of the moment stuff for me, I guess, right now. The Chargers, you know, I can knock on the Dolphins quite a bit, but I still do have to give the Chargers quite a bit of credit. Great game planning last night, especially defensively, not so much offensively. Justin Herbert played well enough. Mike Williams back, he makes a big difference. But take a look at the Chargers' schedule. They host the Titans. They're favored in that game. That could go either way. But then they're at the Colts. They host the Rams. Then they're at the Denver Broncos. At worst, that looks like 3-1. They could realistically run the table, though. I mean, that team has all the talent in the world. A lot of people would agree coaching is a big part of their issues. But that's a team, they've gone down to the wire with the Kansas City Chiefs a couple times already this season. I don't know, man. That's a team that I think if they get there, they could make a little bit of noise in the playoffs. So pretty light schedule coming up for the Chargers. Maybe they do meet that expectation everyone had for them coming into the season. But we almost saw last night, the Chargers tend to charger. They almost gave up that onside kick to end the game. How great would that have been, right? Okay, guys. If you like what we do here at Vegas Insider, always a great transition to these live reads, by the way. If you like what we do here at Vegas Insider, you're going to want to check out the brand new Vegas Insider app. We've got up-to-date, easy-to-navigate odds for every major sport. We have all our latest shows, best bet videos and podcasts, prop trends, features, news, all on the Vegas Insider app. Download the Vegas Insider app right now on Apple and Android. Bet better with the Vegas Insider app. All right. Poll of the day. We put it out on Twitter earlier. Of course, we usually target the game of the day, which is the Monday Night Football game. Oh, wow. This is a lot closer than I thought it would be. I thought more people would be on the Patriots here. 51.9% of people on the Patriots. I don't know, man. Different version of the Patriots teams that show up every week, but they do tend to beat bad teams, except for that Bears game a couple of weeks ago on Monday Night Football. But yeah, I don't know. It looks too easy. We saw how it went when it looked too easy on Thursday night with the Raiders and Rams. But yeah, I'm on the Patriots team total. Over. Ian likes them to cover. Let's get into some viewer picks here, Tito. New Jersey! Our guy JD likes him on the money line. Line keeps changing. Great value going against a team they just beat 2 weeks ago. Rangers have been better of late, but Devils are the better team and are off a loss to the Isles. Love it. Ian, any thoughts on the Battle of New York, New Jersey tonight?
I'm also on the Devils. Rangers getting a little bit exposed now that Shesterkin's not playing at the level that he did last year. Devils have slumped a little bit in recent games when you look at the numbers, but still outrank the Rangers in a lot of categories over each of their last 10 games. So I still like the Devils in this spot. All
right. Moving on. Oh, once again, another pick in support of New Jersey. Our guy, Nathan Schreckengoss. He likes the over on their team total. 2.5. Bit juicy, minus 150, but it's only 2.5 goals here. He likes them to win. He loves the Devils to score 3 or more. Devils coming off a loss on Friday. Haven't lost back-to-back games since October 13th and 15th. Wow. It's about 2 months now. Devils have scored 3+ in 18 of the last 19 games. Rangers have given up 3+ goals in 8 of their last 9 at home. Yeah, Shesterkin, not the goal he was last season. Not to say he can't turn it around. But yeah, I like that one. Even at minus 150. Absolutely worth the gamble. Okay, say the line at Ace Jack 702. He's with me. He's on OKC in SGA we trust 100%. Great Canadian basketball player. Dallas coming off an embarrassing loss to Chicago and a home heartbreaker to Milwaukee. Luka playing hurt and is probable, but I think they'll sit him against OKC. Grab the points while you can. Hopefully plus 9.5 later today. Yeah, I hope they sit Luka too. This guy needs to rest. He needs to heal up. If you're listening, Mavericks, sit Luka tonight, please. Okay, moving on. Third and Benny. He likes the Sens to win in a regulation. I was looking at their team total, 3.5, but it was like minus 140. I didn't really like the juice on that. Anyhow, complete mismatch in offensive advanced stats. Sens top 10 now in Corsi percentage. Expected goals. Ducks remain bottom 3. In all, Sens 5-3 in last 8 with a positive jump in analytics. Quite simply, the Ducks are shit, especially on the road. 2-11-3. Yeah, the Ducks, they suck. They're so bad. Not as bad as the Coyotes. But yeah, good luck on your Senators in 60 tonight. Third and Benny. I think we got one or two more. Cody Wells weighing in. He likes Yale, -5.5, -110 at Fairfield. I'm not going to read off all of those stats, but you can take a quick glance and see that pretty big mismatches there favoring Yale. The Blue Bloods. My goodness. All right. That is it. For those ones, Ian, okay, guys, it's now time for today's Handicapper Heat Check presented by VegasInsider.com, your home for the best expert picks in the business since 1997. Today's featured handicapper, Scott Rickenbach, who nailed 4 straight NFL winners and 16-4 across all sports over the last 4 days. Scott is on fire here. 2 other top NFL experts are on fire, with Tim Michael going 3-0 Sunday and Bill Marzano going 5-2. Visit VegasInsider.com/picks. That's VegasInsider.com/picks for Monday Night Football's top plays. That's your Handicapper Heat Check. Stay hot, bettors. So yeah, I wanted to just touch on that UFC 282 really quickly. Put a cap on that event. The Paddy Pimblett decision. I picked Jared Gordon. If anyone saw that video that we had up last week, and that was rough. That was one of the worst decisions in the history of the UFC, and it comes at a rough time for the UFC because they're kind of under the microscope right now. People alleging fight fixing and insider knowledge, and we saw the UFC betting get banned in a couple of Canadian provinces. I guess that might be back on in Alberta. Not so sure about Ontario. And it does seem like these decisions, whether they be close or not, that one wasn't close, they tend to go to the guy that the UFC is pumping up quite a bit. We saw Sean O'Malley get one over Petr Yan. I put out a tweet on Saturday night. Quite a few people came at me for that one. There's quite a few Sean O'Malley supporters on Twitter. I don't walk that on back, though. O'Malley outstruck him. Do takedowns and top control not matter at all in a fight? Sean O'Malley fans, come on. Give me a break, buddy. And what did you think of the Paddy decision there on Saturday night?
Yeah, not good for that kind of stuff to happen, and the main event too, which was a questionable draw. All that stuff to happen while the UFC is taking on allegations of fight fixing. Not good. Yeah, Paddy. They keep trying to recreate Conor McGregor with Paddy, and it's not going to work. He can't beat anyone in the top 10. So, yeah, bad display. Not a good look for the UFC.
It's bad judging. Like, I'm not, like, people thought I put out this tweet. They thought that I was insinuating that the UFC is fixing fights, and people are like, oh, Dana White gave the judge a tap on the shoulder. They're not fixing fights. That's not going on. There would be way too much at risk. If they got caught fixing fights, they would have their license revoked. And basically any state that they want to go into, they would lose billions. They would be insane. There's way too much at risk for them to be fixing fights, but there is a serious issue with judging in the sport. And I don't know if some of these judges go into some of these fights, Paddy Pimblett, and they just expect him to win. So if it's a close round, they're just going to give it to him type of a thing. And Sean O'Malley, Petr Yan, and you see, it seems like every card there's just a really bad decision, and it really stands out when it is in the high-profile fights. They happen quite a bit on the undercard as well, but they've been saying this for years, that judging has to be overhauled in the sport, maybe going to 5 judges instead of 3, so that like the really bad judge, he won't have that much of an impact on the scorecards. But yeah, it is a bit of an issue, and it ruins guys. Maybe ruin guys' careers is a bit strong. But, you know, Petr Yan, if he wins that fight versus O'Malley, which he should have, then he'd be fighting for the title here next. As a result, he's back to the drawing board, fighting someone who's maybe not even a top 5 guy in the division. And, of course, we know money involved with win bonuses, and there's issues with fighter pay in the sport and things of that nature. But, yeah, that was pretty shitty to see. UFC has a fight night card this weekend. Then they go on like a month break. I don't remember the last time they did that, if ever. So, Ian, what do you have going on at BetSider that we can check out this week?
Yeah, check out the today's episode of Daily Bet Slip, 5 p.m. Eastern on the BetSided YouTube channel. And the road to 272 bets continues. A profitable week this week. We'll see if I can cap it off with a Patriots win tonight, but that'll probably be out. I'll probably be out Thursday morning, to be honest. I got a little bit of a busy start to my week, so check out the Bacon Bets podcast as well.
Busy man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to record my Thursday night football video. That will be up on the Vegas Insider YouTube channel later today. Then I'm gonna go to the gym and obliterate myself. I got to get this Dolphins loss out of my system, out of my mind. How did your race go? You told us on Friday you had an actual race. You were competing in a race.
Yes.
I haven't competed in an actual organized, a sanctioned race. I haven't competed in a sanctioned race in a long time. How did you do?
Well, here's the thing. So I started running a couple months ago. Last month, I started trying to take it a little bit more serious, but it was a learning experience because I run the same route when I do my runs, and it's very flat. So I was introduced to the concept of hills at this race on the weekend, which is something that I forgot existed. So it's a very hilly race. My time was not great, but it was a little bit of a learning experience. I got a 10K coming up in February. That's my next step. So. It's a long journey, but eventually I'd like for it to end in maybe a half marathon, maybe a marathon. We'll see. First step of many.
Yeah, I'd quit 10 minutes in or just walk the race. And there's some honor in walking a race that other people are running. At least you finish, right? And you don't quit. So maybe I'll join you, but I'll walk. And,
all right, sounds good.
Your next marathon once you get to the marathon level. Okay, guys, coming up here at Vegas Insider right here on the YouTube channel. I think at the top of the hour here, Patrick Everson opening line report for week 15. Some interesting insights right from Las Vegas. So you're going to want to stick around. We'll go grab a drink or take a bathroom break and come back and join Patrick for that. I'm going to be back tomorrow flying solo. So it'll be a quicker show tomorrow. 45 minutes today. What are we doing here in 45 minutes? So I'll be back tomorrow. Make sure you follow Vegas Insider on Twitter. Make sure you follow Ian on Twitter. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Good luck with your bets tonight, unless you are fading us. And as always, keep chasing that paper.